The metallic tang of recycled air filled Adam Carter's lungs as he patrolled the curved corridors of Gaia 2. His boots clicked rhythmically against the polished floor, echoing through the empty diplomatic wing. Bioluminescent strips pulsed softly with a gentle blue glow, casting intricate shadows on the ornate walls. "Another thrilling night in paradise," he muttered, adjusting the stunner at his hip. Through the massive observation window to his left, the swirling atmosphere painted the void in shades of amber and violet. Enormous cargo ships drifted by like mechanical whales, their running lights piercing the eternal twilight. His wrist communicator chimed. "Carter, we've got a situation in Diplomatic Suite 17. Priority 1. "Understood." Adam suppressed a groan. Priority 1 usually meant some important diplomat had misplaced their access card or spotted a suspicious cleaning drone. "What's the nature of the problem?" "Unknown. The diplomat requested immediate security presence. Keep it discreet." "When isn't it?" He altered his course, heading toward the central lift. The debt to StarCorp wasn't going to pay itself. But sometimes he missed the simplicity of fixing engines in the outer colonies. At least machines made sense. The lift deposited him on the diplomatic level, where the station's true luxury was on full display. Real wood paneling lined the walls, and meticulously maintained earth plants filled the terrariums. The air here smelled different delicate notes of exotic perfumes and a carefully curated atmosphere, instead of the metallic sterility below. The door to Suite 17 slid open. Before he could announce himself, a woman stood in the doorway, her posture radiating authority. Her figure, especially prominent in a fitted dress with a deep neckline, was slightly distracting. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, and her face exuded a mix of warmth and unapproachable confidence. "Officer Carter," her voice was soft but carried a hint of command. "I am Mirel Zer Algria. Thank you for coming so quickly." Adam instinctively straightened. "Ma'am, what seems to be the problem?" She glanced down the empty corridor and gestured him inside with a subtle motion, leaning slightly forward. "Perhaps we should discuss this in private." The room beyond the threshold was practically a palace. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Naduria's ethereal clouds. The walls were adorned with artworks whose value Adam couldn't even begin to estimate. Morel gestured toward an elegant couch. "Please have a seat." "I'm on duty, ma'am." "Of course." She gracefully lowered herself into a neighboring chair, her movements exuding the poise of royalty. "But this matter requires delicacy and your understanding." Adam frowned, noting the tension in her tone. "What's the issue?" Morel looked at him, her green eyes glowing faintly as if with their own light. "You see, my people sometimes require biological assistance." Adam's hand instinctively moved to his stunner. "Medical personnel?" "No." She waved her hands quickly, her voice faltering. "It's not dangerous. At least not for you, but the situation is unusual." He kept his gaze fixed on her, searching for signs of a joke or deception. "What kind of assistance?" She stood nervously, smoothing the folds of her dress. "Forgive my bluntness, but I need someone to help me with action." Adam blinked. "Excuse me, what? I understand this may sound strange to a human." She attempted a smile, but the physiology of my species requires periodic relief. Normally, this would be handled by specialized assistants. But diplomatic restrictions have made them unavailable, and you decided I'm suited for this role. His voice grew cautious. "You are perfect for it." Her tone was firm, but her gaze betrayed a hint of nervousness. "It will take little time, and I am willing to compensate you generously." "And if I refuse?" "Then I risk serious damage to my health." She hesitated for a moment. "And to the diplomatic negotiations as well." Adam pondered her words, weighing the implications. "No hidden side effects?" She smiled, and there was more sincerity in that smile than he expected. "Only temporary relief, perhaps even enjoyment." "This is sounding stranger by the second." "I know, but please believe me, this is a matter of necessity." Adam said, "Fine, but this stays strictly between us." Mirel visibly relaxed, her face lighting up with a smile. "You won't regret it." "I really hope not." He stood, shaking his head. "But if this turns out to be a joke, I wouldn't dare." She stepped closer, her grace almost hypnotic. "Shall we begin?" What a life, Adam thought. realizing his reality was about to take a far stranger turn than he had ever anticipated. Adam stood frozen as Mirelle approached, her steps deliberate yet carrying a hint of urgency. Despite her composed demeanor, he could see a faint blush on her cheeks, a subtle indication that the situation embarrassed her just as much as it baffled him. "Let me explain," she began, gesturing toward a sleek console that emerged from the wall with a gentle hum. Holographic diagrams flickered to life, displaying what appeared to be an anatomical breakdown of her species. "My people produce an excess of vital energy during periods of high stress or prolonged diplomacy. If this energy isn't released, it builds up and begins to destabilize our neural pathways." "Right," Adam muttered, crossing his arms. "And this release involves?" Quote, "It's entirely non-invasive," Mirelle assured him, her voice softening. "But it requires someone to extract the, let's call it a serum, from specialized glands. Normally, we have trained medics for this, but, well, politics." Adam raised an eyebrow. "Politics prevents you from?" Quote. Mirelle let out a frustrated sigh, though he caught the slightest twitch of amusement at the corner of her lips. "It's not something we can perform effectively on ourselves. The process requires a partner to help stabilize the energy transfer." "Stabilize, huh?" Adam glanced at the diagrams again. "So I'm essentially your emergency backup?" Her expression softened, and for a moment she looked almost vulnerable. "Yes, and as much as I wish I didn't have to ask, you're my only option." He let out a long breath, scratching the back of his neck. "All right, let's just get this over with." Mirelle's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Officer Carter. Please follow me." She led him to a recessed area of the suite where a chair, more like a high-tech recliner, waited. As Adam settled into it, Mirelle activated a series of controls. The room dimmed, the holographic diagrams now projected onto a nearby wall showing a live readout of her vitals. "This might feel a little strange," she said, rolling up the sleeve of her dress to reveal faintly glowing veins on her forearm. "The process requires a slight connection to your bioelectrical field." "Strange is becoming my new normal," Adam muttered, watching as she retrieved a sleek handheld device that pulsed softly in her grip. Mirelle moved closer, the glow from her veins intensifying. "I need you to remain as still as possible. The more relaxed you are, the smoother the transfer." Adam nodded, though his pulse quickened as she leaned over him. Her scent, something floral yet otherworldly, filled the air. The device in her hand emitted a gentle hum as she positioned it near his arm, just above the veins. As it made contact, a wave of warmth spread through him, radiating from the point of contact and flowing throughout his body. It was soothing, almost hypnotic. "Is this normal?" he asked, his voice softer than he intended. Mirelle smiled faintly, her gaze focused on the device completely. "You're experiencing the energy transfer. It's a feedback loop. Your body is helping regulate the process." The warmth intensified, and Adam became acutely aware of her proximity. Her glow had spread, illuminating her face and casting delicate shadows across her features. Her expression was one of concentration, but there was a softness to her eyes that caught him off guard. "This doesn't hurt, right?" he asked, suddenly aware of how close their faces were. She shook her head, her voice almost a whisper. "Not at all. In fact, most find it pleasant." Adam cleared his throat, forcing himself to look away. "Great. So how long does this take?" "Not long," Mirelle said, though her voice carried a hint of breathlessness. The glow surrounding her intensified, and the device emitted a series of soft chimes. "There! Almost done!" The warmth receded slowly, leaving Adam feeling oddly refreshed. Mirelle stepped back, her glow dimming to its usual soft radiance. She looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and something else he couldn't quite place. "You've been incredibly helpful," she said, her voice steadier now. "I owe you more than I can express." Adam stood, stretching slightly. "Just part of the job, I guess. Though I have to admit this was unique." Mirelle smiled, a genuine expression that lit up her features. "I hope it won't deter you from assisting again if the need arises." "Let's not make it a habit," he replied, though his tone was more teasing than serious. As he turned to leave, she called after him. "Officer Carter?" He glanced back. "Yeah? Thank you, truly." For a moment their eyes met, and Adam felt a flicker of something he couldn't quite define. Then he nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Anytime, Mirelle." As he left the suite, the events of the night replayed in his mind. The warmth, the connection, the strange yet undeniable chemistry. He shook his head, muttering to himself, "What a life." But even as he walked away, a small part of him couldn't help but wonder when he might see her again. The next morning, Adam's patrol route felt different. Every sensor reading, every distant hum of the station's machinery seemed sharper, clearer. He flexed his hand, watching as faint blue traces of energy sparked between his fingers. "Something's definitely changed," he muttered, quickly hiding his hand as a group of delegates passed by. His comm unit crackled. "Carter, report to Security Hub 7 now." In the hub, Chief Morgan waited, her stern expression illuminated by multiple holographic displays. Each screen showed different angles of last night's corridor footage. "Care to explain why you spent 47 minutes in a diplomat's quarters?" Morgan's voice carried an edge. "Official request for assistance, ma'am. All logged and documented with a Level 9 clearance lockout on the files." Morgan leaned forward. "What exactly happened in there, Carter?" Before he could answer, an alarm blared. Red emergency lights bathed the room. "Security breach in Diplomatic Wing B," the AI announced. "Unknown entities detected." Morgan's fingers flew across the console. "All units respond. Carter, you're closest." "On it." He was already moving, his enhanced reflexes carrying him faster than should have been possible. He rounded a corner to find 3 figures in stealth suits attempting to breach a door. Mirel's door. "Security! Freeze!" The intruder spun, raising weapons. Adam dove for cover as energy bolts scorched the wall behind him. But something was different. He could see the energy patterns in their weapons, could almost predict their firing trajectories. Acting on instinct, he rolled out of cover and fired his stunner. The shot connected with impossible precision, dropping one attacker. The second tried to flank him, but Adam was already moving, his body responding with supernatural speed. "Impressive," a familiar voice called. Moving. Mirel stood in her doorway, some kind of defensive field shimmering around her. The enhancement took better than expected. "Enhancement?" Adam ducked another shot. "You mean last night?" "Talk later." She raised her hand, and a pulse of energy sent the remaining attackers flying as security teams converged on their position. Mirel grabbed Adam's arm. "We need to go. Now." "Go where? I'm on duty." "Those weren't random criminals." She cut him off, her eyes intense. "They're here for both of us. The procedure didn't just help me. It triggered something in your DNA. Something that certain parties would very much like to study." Adam looked at his hands, still crackling with faint energy. "What did you do to me?" "I gave you a gift," she met his gaze. "Or possibly cursed you. Right now, we need to move before more arrive." Footsteps thundered down the corridor. Time was running out. "Trust me." Mirel extended her hand. Adam glanced between her and the approaching security teams. Chief Morgan would want answers he couldn't give. And these new abilities. "This better not be part of some elaborate diplomatic scheme," he said, taking her hand. Mirel's smile was both relieved and mischievous. "Would I do that to my favorite security officer?" Together, they slipped through a hidden panel in the wall, one that definitely wasn't on any official station schematics. As alarms continued to wail behind them. "So," Adam said as they hurried through the secret passage, "about these enhancements." "Let's just say," Mirel replied, leading him deeper into the station's hidden infrastructure, "your life is about to become considerably more interesting." Behind them, voices echoed through the corridors, and the hunt began in earnest. The service tunnel narrowed, forcing them closer together as they moved through the dimly lit space. Adam was acutely aware of Mirel's presence beside him. "You could have warned me about the side effects," he whispered, catching her arm as she stumbled over a loose panel. She steadied herself, her hand lingering on his chest. "With me. Would you have believed me? Besides, watching you discover them is far more entertaining." "Glad I could amuse you," he replied dryly, but couldn't help smiling. "Where exactly are we heading?" "My people maintain alternative transportation methods. There's a small ship docked in a hidden bay." She glanced back at him. "Unless you'd prefer to stay and explain your new abilities to your superiors?" Before he could answer, voices echoed through the tunnel behind them. Mirel pulled him into a maintenance alcove, pressing close as footsteps passed by. Adam held his breath, very conscious of their proximity. This is becoming a habit, he murmured. Once the danger passed. What is? Her eyes sparkled with amusement. Getting into trouble with mysterious diplomats? She raised an eyebrow. Do you make a habit of that with many diplomats, Officer Carter? Just the ones who give me supernatural abilities, he countered, following her as she led the way forward. Again, they emerged into a vast, hidden chamber. A sleek vessel waited, its hull gleaming with subtle patterns of light. Your chariot awaits, she gestured with mock formality. Ready to become a fugitive? Do I have a choice? Always. Her expression grew serious, but I'd prefer if you chose to come with me. Their eyes met in the dim light, and for a moment the tension between them shifted from danger to something else entirely. The ship's hatch sealed with a pneumatic hiss as alarms blared through the hidden bay. Adam followed Mirel to the cockpit, where holographic controls sprang to life at her touch. You know how to fly this thing? He asked, strapping into the co-pilot seat. Among other things. Her fingers danced across the controls. Hold on tight! The ship lifted smoothly, then shot forward through a concealed tunnel. G-forces pressed Adam into his seat as they emerged into open space. Nadria's swirling atmosphere fell away below them. Station security vessels incoming, he warned, reading the tactical display. 3 of them. Perfect time to test those new reflexes. Morel flipped a switch, and a secondary control panel materialized before him. Weapons are yours! I've never. The words died in his throat as information flooded his consciousness. Suddenly, he understood the targeting systems as if he'd trained on them for years. What's happening to me? Your neural pathways are adapting. She executed a sharp turn, evading the first volley of warning shots. The energy transfer enhanced your ability to process information. Trust your instincts. Adam's hands moved of their own accord. The ship's weapons responded instantly, firing precise bursts that disabled the pursuing vessel's engines without destroying them. Impressive, Morel said. But her satisfaction was short-lived. A massive shadow fell over their ship. That's problematic. A Dreadnought-class warship dropped out of hyperspace directly ahead, its weapons arrays powered up, targeting locks painting their hull. This is Admiral Theon. A deep voice resonated through their communication. Stand down immediately. The specimen must be contained. Morel's face hardened. Specimen? What's he talking about? Adam asked, though a cold suspicion was forming. Later. She killed the comm and dove beneath the massive vessel. Right now, we need to. Of console. The ship rocked as tractor beams engaged. Warning lights flashed across the console. Can you break free? Adam's enhanced senses were screaming danger, every cell in his body humming with unreleased energy. Not alone. Morel reached for his hand. Remember that connection from before? We need to amplify it. Their fingers intertwined and electricity arced between them. The ship system surged as their combined energy flowed through the controls. The tractor beam shattered, and they shot forward at impossible speed. That's not standard equipment, Adam managed, his heart racing from more than just adrenaline. Neither are you. Mirel programmed a series of rapid jumps, which is exactly why Theon wants you. Care to explain? She hesitated, then engaged the autopilot. The procedure we performed. It wasn't just about helping me. My organization has been studying human potential for decades. Your species has dormant abilities that can be awakened through proper stimulation, and you didn't think to mention this earlier? Would you have believed me? She turned to face him fully. Besides, we needed to confirm you were compatible. Not everyone is compatible for what? For this. She gestured at his glowing hands. For the bonding process. Most humans reject it, but you're different. Adam absorbed this, watching space blur past their viewport. And Admiral Theon wants to weaponize the process? Her expression darkened. He's been trying to create enhanced soldiers, but his methods are brutal. Fatal, usually. Unlike your methods? He raised an eyebrow. A faint blush colored her cheeks. Our approach is more intimate and entirely voluntary. Right? He flexed his fingers, watching energy dance between them. So where are we heading? Somewhere safe. A place where... The ship lurched violently. Emergency lights flooded the cabin. "They're tracking us through your energy signature," Morell said, hands flying over the controls. "We need to mask it." "How?" She met his gaze, and that earlier tension returned tenfold. "Remember how I said the process was intimate?" "Yeah, well." She stood, moving closer. "We need to complete the bond fully this time." Adam's pulse quickened. "Define fully?" "It requires..." She stepped into his personal space. "Close contact. The energy needs to synchronize completely, and this will help us escape, among other things." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But only if you're willing." Another impact rocked the ship. Proximity alarms blared. "Your choice, Officer Carter." Her eyes held his, but choose quickly. Adam looked at their pursuers, then back at Morell. At this, he could see the faint glow beneath her skin, calling to something deep within him. "Well," he said, standing to face her, "I've always been terrible at following regulations anyway." Her smile was both dangerous and inviting. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." As their pursuers closed in, the ship's cabin filled with a brilliant blue light, and for a moment, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The blue light intensified as Morell stepped closer, her hands finding his. Energy surged between them, stronger than before. "Electric and alive!" The ship systems pulsed in sync with their combined energy. "Let it flow," Morell whispered, her eyes glowing. "Don't fight it." Adam felt the power building, racing through his veins like liquid fire. Their foreheads touched, and suddenly he could feel everything. The ship's systems, the pursuers' targeting locks, the very fabric of space around them. "Now," Morell commanded. Their combined energy exploded outward. The pursuing ship's systems crashed. Their tracking systems overloaded. In that moment of chaos, Morell's fingers flew across the controls, and they vanished into hyperspace. Adam staggered, catching himself against the bulkhead. "That was intense!" Miss Merrill's voice held a mix of satisfaction and concern. Her hair had come loose during the energy surge, floating around her face like a dark halo. "That's one word for it." He looked at his hands, still crackling with residual energy. "Is it always like this?" "No!" She moved to check their course, but he caught the slight tremor in her movements. "This is different. We're different." "Different good or different bad? That depends." She turned back to him, her expression serious despite the flush in her cheeks. "On whether you're ready for what comes next." Before he could ask what that meant, a massive structure materialized as they exited hyperspace. A facility carved into an asteroid, nearly invisible against the starfield. "Welcome to Haven," Morell said softly, "where we train people like us, or at least similar to us." "Similar?" Adam watched as massive hangar doors slid open before them. "Most bonded pairs can barely generate enough energy to power a shuttle." She landed their ship with practiced ease. "We just overloaded 3 military-grade vessels." The docking bay filled with figures in sleek uniforms, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Leading them was a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, her bearing radiating authority. "Morell!" the woman called out as they descended the ship's ramp. "I assume there's a good explanation for why you've initiated an unauthorized bond that's lighting up every sensor in the quadrant?" "Director Vipital," Morell straightened. "Admiral Theon forced my hand. He's moving ahead of schedule." Vipital's expression darkened. "Already?" Her sharp gaze turned to Adam. "And you must be Officer Carter. Welcome to the most classified facility in known space, though I doubt this is how you plan to spend your evening." "Definitely not in the security manual," Adam agreed, acutely aware of how close Morell still stood to him, their energy still humming in sync. "Come," Vital ordered. "We need to discuss what you both started and what's coming for us all." As they followed Vital into the facility, Morell's hand brushed against his, sending sparks dancing between them. "Second thoughts?" she whispered. Adam watched as they passed training areas, where other pairs moved in perfect synchronization, energy flowing between them like liquid light. None glowed as brightly as he and Morell. About without becoming a fugitive, getting caught up in an interstellar conspiracy, and developing supernatural abilities. He caught her eye, allowing himself a small smile. "Strangely? No?" Her answering smile made his pulse quicken. "Good, because we're just getting started." Around them, Haven's secrets waited to be unveiled, And somewhere in space, Admiral Theon plotted his next move. But in that moment, all Adam could focus on was the woman beside him and the impossible connection they shared. The adventure had only begun. Director Vinyl led them through Haven's winding corridors, her quick stride betraying urgency. "Your quarters are adjacent," she explained, stopping before two doors. "Given the intensity of your bond, you'll need to stay close, at least until you learn to control it." Morel raised an eyebrow. "Adjacent? That's cautious of you." "We're a research facility, not a dating service," Varel replied dryly. "Training starts at 06:00. Try to rest." As Veal departed, Morel lingered in Adam's doorway. The energy between them pulsed gently like a shared heartbeat. "Your control is improving," she noted, watching the blue light dance around his fingers. "Is that what you call this?" He demonstrated by creating a small spiral of energy. "Because it feels more like barely contained chaos." She stepped closer, taking his hand. The energy surged, filling the room with soft light. Chaos can be beautiful when properly directed. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the rest of Haven seemed to fade away. Then Morel stepped back, clearing her throat. "Get some sleep, Adam. Tomorrow will test us both." "No hints about what to expect?" Her smile turned playful. "Where's the fun in that?" Morning came too quickly. Adam found Morel waiting outside his door, dressed in fitted training gear that made focusing on her words rather challenging. "Ready to learn what you're capable of?" she asked, leading him to a massive training arena. "Depends. Are you going to throw more warships at me?" "Not today." She tossed him a practice staff. "Today we dance." The staff hummed in his hands, responding to his energy. Across the arena, other pairs practiced complex forms, their movements synchronized. "The bond requires harmony," Morel explained, taking position opposite him. "Physical, mental, emotional." She struck without warning. Adam blocked instinctively, their staffs connecting in a shower of sparks. Energy flowed between them, guiding his movements. "Not bad." She circled him, her movements fluid. "But you're thinking too much. Feel it instead." "Feel what?" "This." She lunged again, but this time when their weapons met, she didn't pull back. Instead, she pressed closer, their energies intertwining. Suddenly, Adam could sense her intentions, feel her next move before she made it. Their practice evolved into something more like a dance, each strike and parry flowing naturally into the next. "Now you're getting it," Morel breathed, her eyes bright with excitement. They moved faster, their combined energy creating patterns in the air around them. Other trainees stopped to watch, murmuring among themselves. Finally, Morel called halt. They stood close, breathing hard, the air between them charged with more than just energy. "That was," Adam started. "Impressive!" Director Vidal's voice cut in. She approached with several officials in tow, though perhaps a bit more intense than standard training protocols suggest. Morel stepped back, though her eyes stayed on Adam's. Standard protocols don't exactly apply to us, Director." Vil gestured to the scorch marks their energy had left on the training floor. "Which is why the Council wants to meet you both immediately." "The Council?" Adam asked. "The leaders of our organization," Morel explained, her expression turning serious. "They don't usually take such direct interest in new pairs." "They do when those pairs display enough power to reshape the political landscape of 3 systems." Veal started walking. "Follow me, and try to keep the light show to a minimum." As they followed Veal, Morel's hand brushed against Adam's. Nervous about meeting the secret leaders of a clandestine organization, while developing unexplained powers, and being hunted by a military admiral? He caught her hand, enjoying the spark of contact. "Just another day at the office." Her laugh echoed through the corridor. "That's what I like about you, Adam. You make intergalactic conspiracy sound almost normal. Is that all you like about me?" The look she gave him held promises that made his pulse race. "Let's survive the council meeting first. Then maybe we explore that question further." Around them, Haven hummed with energy and secrets. But in that moment, the only mystery Adam cared about was the woman beside him, and the connection that seemed to grow stronger with every passing hour. The massive doors of the council chamber slid open, revealing a circular room bathed in soft blue light. 7 figures sat at elevated positions around the perimeter, their faces obscured by shadows. "Approach!" a voice commanded. Morell's hand brushed against Adam's as they walked forward. The contact sent a visible ripple of energy through the room. "Lighting fascinating!" One council member leaned forward. "The resonance between them is unprecedented and dangerous." Another added, "Such power unchecked." "We can control it," Morell stated firmly. "Can you?" The central figure stood. "Show us." Without warning, force fields sprang up around them, separating Adam and Morell. The sudden separation felt like a physical blow. Adam's energy flared, instinctively pushing against the barrier. "Careful!" Morell called to him, her own energy pulsing in response. "They're testing us! Focus!" Adam took a deep breath, trying to calm the surge of power. But he could feel Morell's presence just beyond the barrier, calling to him like a magnetic pull. "Interesting," the council leader observed. "Even separated, their energy seeks each other." "The question is," another member added, "can they maintain control when reunited?" The barriers dropped. Adam and Morell moved together instantly, their energies intertwining. The room's lights flickered as power coursed between them. "Easy," Morell murmured, her hand finding his. "Show them harmony, not force." Adam focused on her touch, letting their energies blend rather than surge. The wild power settled into a steady glow around them. "Better." She smiled, and the warmth in her eyes made his heart race more than any energy surge. "Impressive control," the council leader noted. "But control isn't everything. Admiral Theon's forces grow bolder. They'll come for you both." "Let them try," Adam said, surprising himself with his certainty. Morell's grip tightened on his hand. "We're stronger together." "Yes," the leader agreed. "That's what concerns us." The chamber lights dimmed, focusing on them like spotlights. "Your bond goes deeper than any we've seen," one council member explained. "It could reshape everything we know about human-alien interaction." Or, another added darkly, "it could destroy everything we've built." "The question," the leader concluded, "is whether you're ready for what comes next." Morell turned to face Adam fully, her eyes intense. "I am, if you are." The energy between them pulsed with possibility. Adam realized he didn't just want to be ready, he needed to be for her. "What's next?" he asked, not breaking eye contact with Morell. "Advanced training," she replied, a hint of challenge in her smile. "Think you can keep up?" "With you?" He let a small surge of energy dance between them. "I'm counting on it." The council chambers gradually emptied, leaving them alone in the dim light. Morell stepped closer, her energy wrapping around him like a caress. "You know," she whispered, "we really should practice maintaining control in various situations." Is that what we're calling it now?" Her laugh sent shivers through their shared energy field. "Among other things," as they left the chamber together. The air around them crackled with potential. After the council meeting, as silence enveloped the corridors, Morell led Adam to their shared training hall. Their footsteps echoed, and the tension between them felt almost tangible. "You handled that well," she said, her tone warm yet teasing. "Did I?" Adam glanced at her, feeling a smile tugging at his lips. "I thought they were about to ask me to sign some kind of blood contract." Morell laughed, her melodic voice dissolving the remnants of tension. It was the kind of laugh that made everything seem a little lighter. "Viral might enjoy that," she said, stopping at the door. "But we have something more important to address." She turned to face him, her features softly illuminated by the glow of her internal energy. "We've been through a lot already, Adam," she began, her voice lowering, more intimate. "And you've proven you can handle the unexpected." That sounds like a lead-in to throwing me into something weird again," he quipped, crossing his arms. "What is it this time? Remember for it." Morell stepped closer, closing the distance between them. Her gaze met his, a blend of gratitude and anticipation shining in her eyes. "I need your help again," she said softly, hesitating for just a moment before continuing. "But this isn't just about duty. I'm asking you as a partner, a close partner." Her words made him freeze for a moment. This wasn't just another standard request or a professional necessity. There was something personal in her tone, something that ran deeper than their bond. "Are you serious?" he asked, trying to mask his growing interest. "After everything we've just been through? This isn't just for me," she said, a small smile softening her expression. "It's for both of us." Her energy began to manifest, tingling against his skin like a gentle static charge. She stepped closer, close enough that Adam could feel her body heat. "Mirel, are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. "Completely," her tone, but her gaze held a tender invitation. "You already know how this works, but this time it's more than just unloading energy. This is synchronization at a new level." "Synchronization?" he repeated, his gaze locked on hers. "That's what you're calling it?" She tilted her head playfully, a glint of humor in her eyes. "You can call it whatever you like as long as it works," Adam sighed, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "All right, partner, lead the way." She took his hand, her touch gentle yet decisive, and guided him to the platform. When they stood facing each other, she activated a console, and a soft glow filled the room. "Relax," she whispered, her voice almost hypnotic. "Just trust me." "I've heard that before," he muttered with a smirk, though he felt the tension in his body beginning to fade. Mirel gently placed her hands on his shoulders, her energy flowing into him, wrapping him in a soothing warmth. Adam could feel their connection deepening, their energy weaving together into a unified stream. "See?" she murmured, her lips so close he could almost feel them. "It's not chaos anymore. It's harmony." "If that's what you're calling it," he replied, sensing their combined energy fill the space around them, "then it's definitely worth doing again." She laughed, a light, genuine sound that carried the weight of their growing bond. As the room's light dimmed and their energy finally stabilized, Mirel looked at him with a warmth he hadn't seen before. "Thank you, Adam," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not just my partner anymore. You've become something more." His reply was simple but heartfelt. "I'm always ready for you." Their bond was stronger than ever, and both of them knew that even greater challenges lay ahead. Challenges they could only face together. As the glow in the training hall began to fade, Adam and Mirel stood close, their breathing still heavy from the intensity of their synchronization. The energy between them settled into a calm yet vibrant hum, as if their bond had reached a new equilibrium. "That was different," Adam said, his voice low. He watched as Mirel's luminous eyes softened, her usual confidence giving way to something more vulnerable. "Different is one word for it," she replied, her smile faint but genuine. "I wasn't expecting it to feel so complete." Adam tilted his head. "Complete?" Mirel took a small step back, as if to collect herself, but her hand lingered on his arm, the warmth of her touch still sending subtle sparks through his skin. "The bond," she explained, her voice tinged with awe. "It's not just energy anymore. Something deeper has aligned." Adam frowned, feeling a strange sensation ripple through his body like an echo of the energy they just shared. "Aligned? How?" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "Our DNA, during the synchronization, it merged in a way. It's a rare phenomenon, even for my people. It usually only happens with—" She cut herself off, her cheeks flushing a deeper shade of blue. "With what?" Adam pressed, his curiosity piqued by her uncharacteristic hesitation. "With partners meant to reproduce," she admitted, her gaze dropping for the first time. "The energy exchange triggers something biological. It's not just a bond anymore, it's life." Adam blinked, the weight of her words settling over him. "Wait, are you saying—" "Yes," she said quickly, meeting his gaze again. Her expression was a mixture of vulnerability and determination. "I'm saying there's a very high chance I'm pregnant." The room went quiet, save for the faint hum of residual energy around them. Adam opened his mouth, then closed it again, trying to process what she just said. "Pregnant?" he repeated, as if testing the word in his mind. "With our child?" Mirel nodded, her hands clasping nervously in front of her. "It's not uncommon for bonded pairs, but it's never happened between a human and my species before. This is unprecedented." Adam took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. "Wow, that's a lot to take in." I understand if this is overwhelming, Morel said, her voice soft but steady. I didn't plan for this. But hold on, Adam interrupted, stepping closer. Overwhelming? Sure, but you think I'm about to run or something? Morel, we're in this together, remember? Her eyes widened slightly, the tension in her shoulders easing. You mean that? Of course I do. He reached out, taking her hands in his. We've already faced assassins, conspiracies, and now we've apparently created something amazing. What's one more challenge? Morel's lips curved into a smile, her gaze shimmering with gratitude and something more. You always surprise me, Adam. I like keeping you on your toes, he replied, his tone playful. But seriously, are you okay? How does this work for your species? It's fast, she admitted, her hand drifting to her abdomen instinctively. The energy we shared accelerated everything. I'll know for sure in a day or two. Adam let out a low whistle. And I thought humans had complicated relationships. The Wesmit. Morel laughed, her hand tightening around his. If it's any consolation, you've handled this better than I expected. He grinned. What can I say? I'm adaptable, wet hand. Though I have to ask, does this mean I'm stuck with you now? Her laugh deepened, the sound filling the space between them. Stuck? If anything, I think I'm stuck with you. Adam raised an eyebrow, a mischievous glint in his eye. Oh, don't think you're getting out of this so easily. You're going to owe me a lot of explanations about how alien parenting works. Deal, she replied, her voice warm with amusement. But first, we need to tell Vial and the council, right? Adam sighed. Because nothing says let's keep things low-key, like telling a secret intergalactic organization we're expecting the first human-alien hybrid. Morel chuckled, stepping closer until their foreheads almost touched. Whatever happens, Adam, I trust you, and I'll be by your side, always. Same here, he murmured, his voice softer now. We'll figure this out together. As their connection deepened, the air between them crackled with a new kind of energy, one filled with promise, uncertainty, and the beginnings of something neither of them could have imagined. The following day, Adam woke to the soft hum of Haven's automated systems. For a moment, he lay still, staring at the ceiling and replaying the events of the previous night. Morel's revelation echoed in his mind, but instead of panic, he felt a strange sense of calm and responsibility. A soft chime at his door broke his thoughts. He rose and opened it to find Morel standing there, a tray of what looked like breakfast in her hands. Her usual composure was intact, but there was a warmth in her expression that hadn't been there before. Thought you might need something to eat, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Big day ahead? Big day, huh? Adam closed the door and followed her to the small table in his quarters. You mean telling a room full of galactic bigwigs that we accidentally created interspecies history? Morel smirked, setting the tray down. Technically, it wasn't an accident. Adam sat across from her, grabbing a piece of what resembled toast. Careful, Morel. That almost sounds like you planned this. Planned? No. She poured 2 cups of steaming liquid, her hands steady despite the weight of her words. Hoped, maybe? That in play. Adam paused mid-bite, raising an eyebrow. Hoped? Her eyes met his unflinching. Our bond was always unique. The synchronization. It awakened something in both of us. Alpha. And I won't lie, Adam. I've wanted to see where this connection could lead even before I knew what it truly meant. Adam leaned back, his gaze steady. You're full of surprises. You're one to talk, she countered, her lips curving into a soft smile. You've handled everything I've thrown at you without running for the nearest escape pod. To be fair, he said, taking a sip of the drink she'd poured. You've made it pretty hard to run. Something about assassins, conspiracies, and now a potential kid kind of ties a guy down? She laughed, the sound light and genuine. So you're staying then? Do I have a choice? He leaned forward, his tone teasing but sincere. Morel, we're in this together. I don't run from my responsibilities or my partners. Her smile softened, and for a moment, the tension in the room dissolved. But before either of them could say more, the comm unit on Adam's wrist beeped. Officer Carter, Mirel Zer Algeria, report to the council chambers immediately, came Director Ville's voice. Speaking of responsibilities, Adam muttered, standing. Morel stood as well, smoothing the front of her sleek uniform. Ready to face the music? Adam shot her a wry smile. As ready as I'll ever be. The council chamber was as imposing as ever, its soft blue lighting casting shadows across the 7 seated members. Membrel and Adam stood in the center of the circular room, the weight of the council's gaze heavy on them. You have something to report? Vidal prompted, her voice calm but commanding. Mirel stepped forward, her head held high. During our synchronization, an unprecedented phenomenon occurred. Our DNA merged. Adam and I are now bonded on a biological level. Furthermore, she hesitated, glancing at Adam, who nodded slightly. There's a high likelihood that I'm carrying the first hybrid child between our species. Mirel finished, her voice steady. The chamber fell silent. Adam's enhanced senses could pick up the faint shifting of robes and the muted breaths of the council members. Finally, the central figure spoke. This development could change everything we know about human-alien relations, they said, their tone neutral. The implications are significant. Significant doesn't begin to cover it, another member interjected, their voice sharper. If Theon learns of this, his forces will double their efforts to capture you both. Adam stepped forward, his hands clenched. Then we don't let him. Mirel and I aren't just going to sit here and wait for him to make a move. And what do you propose, Officer Carter? Vabel asked, her expression unreadable. Give us a chance to fight back, he said, his voice firm. Train us. Use us. If our bond is as powerful as you think, then let's put it to work. Mirel placed a hand on his arm, her touch grounding him. Adam's right. We didn't choose this, but we can use it for the good of both our species. The council members exchanged glances, their murmured discussion too quiet for even Adam's senses to pick up. Finally, the central figure nodded. Very well, they said. You will begin advanced training immediately. But be warned, this bond makes you a target. If you fall into the wrong hands, the consequences could be catastrophic. We understand, Mirel replied. Good. Vidal stood, signaling the end of the meeting. You're dismissed, and congratulations on your unprecedented partnership. As they left the chamber, Mirel exhaled softly, her confident exterior slipping just enough for Adam to notice. You okay? He asked, placing a hand on her shoulder. She nodded, though her smile was faint. I'm just realizing how much bigger this is than us. Hey, he said, squeezing her shoulder lightly. Whatever happens, we face it together. Her smile grew, the tension in her eyes easing. You're impossible, you know that? And you love it, he shot back, his grin teasing. Mirel laughed, shaking her head. Let's just survive this training, Carter. Then we'll see if you're still so confident. As they walked through Haven's corridors, the bond between them pulsed gently, a constant reminder of the connection they now shared. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about building something new, something that could change the galaxy forever now. And as far as Adam was concerned, there was no one he'd rather face the future with than Mirel. The next few weeks at Haven passed in a whirlwind of intense training and cautious preparation. Adam and Mirel honed their abilities, learning to channel their shared energy into forms of combat, defense, and even advanced communication. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, an unbreakable connection that neither had anticipated but both came to rely on. Their relationship also deepened in ways that went beyond their bond. Adam found himself drawn to Mirel's sharp mind and quiet vulnerability, while she admired his unflinching determination and grounded humanity. The trust they had forged through their shared experiences became the foundation for something far more profound. Word came that Admiral Theon had located Haven. The council debated evacuation, but Adam and Mirel knew running wasn't an option. Theon would never stop hunting them, and the galaxy's fragile balance of power could not endure such a threat. The day of the attack arrived. Theon's fleet emerged from hyperspace, surrounding Haven with overwhelming firepower. Inside the asteroid base, chaos reigned as personnel scrambled to prepare for battle. Adam and Mirel stood together in the command center, their hands clasped as they coordinated with the defense teams. Energy pulsed around them, visible to all, an undeniable symbol of their bond. We'll take the fight to them, Adam declared, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Mirel and I can use the ship to break through their lines and disable their command vessel? It's a suicide mission, Director Vil said grimly. No, Mirel countered, her voice firm. It's our best chance. Together we can do this. Reluctantly, the council agreed. As their small but agile vessel hurtled toward Theon's flagship, Adam and Mirel worked in perfect sync. Their combined energy powered the ship far beyond its normal capabilities, enabling them to evade the onslaught of enemy fire. Inside the flagship, Theon waited. The massive warship's interior was a labyrinth of sterile corridors and imposing guards. Adam and Mirel fought their way through, their energy shields deflecting attacks while their enhanced reflexes kept them one step ahead. Finally, they confronted Theon in the command center. The Admiral was a towering figure, his presence as intimidating as his reputation. "You've gone to great lengths for this," Theon sneered, gesturing to the energy surrounding them. "But you're out of your depth. That bond of yours is a liability." "Funny," Adam shot back, stepping forward. "It seems to be working just fine." Theon activated a device on his wrist, and suddenly the air crackled with destabilizing energy. Adam and Mirel staggered, their bond thrown into chaos as the device disrupted their synchronization. "Without your connection, you're nothing," Theon said, advancing on them. "No," Mirel said, her voice rising above the discord. "Our bond isn't just power, it's trust." Reaching out, she found Adam's hand. Despite the interference, their energies aligned, pushing back against the disruption. Together, they channeled their shared strength into a single overwhelming burst that shattered Theon's device and disabled the ship systems. As alarms blared, Theon fell, his plans undone. The remaining fleet, leaderless and in disarray, retreated. Back at Haven, celebrations broke out as the threat of Theon's forces finally faded. Adam and Mirel stood together on a balcony, overlooking the bustling base, the galaxy's first human-alien bonded pair and its first high parents-to-be. "You know," Adam said, wrapping an arm around her waist, "this isn't exactly how I imagined my life turning out." "Regrets?" Mirel asked, her tone teasing. "Not one," he replied, turning to face her. "Though I have to admit, this has been a hell of a first date," she laughed, leaning into him. "And here I thought humans like to take things slow." "Not when it comes to saving the galaxy," he said, his expression softening. "Or falling in love." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of their journey melted away, leaving only the bond they had forged. A connection that transcended species and circumstance. Months later, their child was born. A perfect blend of human and Xerian traits. The hybrid infant symbolized not just their love, but also the potential for unity between their peoples. The council, once skeptical, now saw the bond as a beacon of hope for a new era of cooperation. Adam and Mirel became ambassadors, traveling the galaxy to share their story and foster understanding between species. Their adventures continued, filled with challenges, humor, and the unshakable bond that had brought them together. And though the path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear. They would face it hand in hand, their connection a constant reminder that even in the vastness of the galaxy, true unity and true love were possible. Quote,